Hi, my name is Nick Basket. I'm the editor-in-chief over at bartalks.net, which is an online resource for the coffee and cocoa professionals and producing community. So today I'm going to be talking about this grinder. This is the grinder I've had since May 2020. So I've had it for, I guess, almost a couple of years now. It's the Zenith E65 grinder by Eureka. E65E, in fact. It's a 65mm flat burr grinder. I've used this at home for 2 years, making, I guess, anything from 2 to 10 coffees a day with it. And it's about time I did a review, really, isn't it? So we're going to be talking about that. I'm also going to be, in some ways, replacing this grinder. And I want to talk about why. I'm going to be replacing it with a grinder that I've had on back order for a while. So I'm not going to say what it is because that's going to be a surprise. We'll do a big, reveal when it finally arrives. But why would I replace this grinder? Do I like this grinder? What's the problem with it? There's actually no problems with it. I actually love this grinder. It's not perfect in every situation, and we're going to talk about that. But we're going to cover off some of the features, whether this grinder might be right for you or not. Actually, maybe how it stacks up against some of the modern grinders that we've seen out there as well, and discuss whether or not this is the right coffee to have at home or in a cafe. Or both. So first thing is, just to cover off a few of the sort of the specs, you'll notice that this, you may or may not notice, this is not the standard hopper. So the standard hopper that it comes with is actually quite a tall hopper. I think it takes about 1 kilo or so of beans. But the problem with it is it just doesn't fit under most cabinets, which is something I found out when I ordered it, and it didn't fit. I ended up having to put it in like some horribly inconvenient location, and it was a bone of contention every day until I could get a shorter hopper sorted for it. But one of the good things about this is it just has a standard hopper attachment. So there's lots of available options for it. I got this short when I got it for about 40, I think it would cost me about £45 from the espresso shop, I think it was. I bought the grinder, let's talk about the price issue of the grinder. I bought this for £599 and maybe 99p, I can't remember, but definitely 599 is a number. 2 years ago. From Redbur, based in Guildford, in Surrey. So it arrived the next day, I think it was, very quick shipping. I have not had a problem with this machine at all. So let's just go through these settings. So we'll talk a little bit about the menu in a minute. I love the menu. Build quality. Anybody who follows this channel knows that I'm a huge sort of fan of how you interact with your equipment. If you're going to be using something on a regular basis every day, you need it to feel good. When you're touching and feeling it, you want it to, you want to love it. You don't want to feel like, I'm touching it's cheap, but it makes good coffee, but you want to have that experience. So everything about this machine, everything exudes quality. The fact that it weighs, enough that it takes a Herculean Olympic weightlifter to pick it up. This knob is my favorite knob on a grinder ever. Now, I'm going to tell you, I've got a thing about grind adjustment knobs because one of my first serious grinders was a Mazzer grinder, and admittedly, I bought it secondhand, and it was a bit old. We had it in my cafe. I had 2 grinders in my cafe. One was, I can't even remember the other. I think it was a Speciata or something. I can't remember. And I got it because it had all sorts of buttons and knobs and electronic stuff in there. That never worked. That was constantly breaking. But the Mazzer had one of this. They got these huge collars on them, and you had to take a pin and put it in to push the collar around. You take the pin out, and the idea was that then no one could adjust the grind except you, because you were the only one with the pin. But you just lose the pin, and then you couldn't turn the collar. It was always a pain. You'd take 2 of you, and it was incredibly difficult. I don't know. I'm sure they're not meant to be like that. Anyway, so for me, look at this. I'm going to show you this another picture. This is beautiful. This is a beautiful engineered. It's just lovely to touch. It's lovely to interact with. It's buttery smooth but firm. It doesn't move out of the way easily. So I love the whole way this is designed. The switch is on the side, so it's easy to reach. There's no reaching around the back to try and turn it on in the morning. There's a nice little click. I don't know if you can hear this. Listen. I mean, you know, and the light comes on, and you just know it's a solid operation. So the first thing is build quality. Absolutely love the build quality. The burr set, they're decent. It's decent. I mean, this is where I get a little bit tricky because, you know, in the coffee world, we're all about the best, getting the best that we can all the time. Sometimes I wonder if every morning when I come out, you know, come into the kitchen, whether I'm seeking to attain new heights of espresso, you know, nirvana, or whether I want a predictably nice espresso. Maybe what I want is I want my beans and the roaster to do the exciting hard work, and I just want my grinder to turn it out, you know, in a consistent manner. So this is more of that. The burr set, 65mm flat burr, it produces, so let's talk a little bit about coffee characteristics. So let's define a lexicon here so we understand what we're talking about. Generally, what I'm looking for from espresso, this is me, I like texture. So I really like when a coffee has that lovely texture to it. I'm not necessarily just talking about crema, I'm talking about the overall, you know, mouthfeel of the coffee. The second thing we use to describe the output is the clarity, and you know, different burrs will produce different clarity, or different grinders will produce different clarity because, and the clarity is the ability to differentiate between the different flavor notes that you're supposed to be able to get out of your coffee. So where it says, you know, I don't know, caramel and butterscotch, you should be tasting caramel and you should be tasting butterscotch. And if you're not, and it all just tastes sort of much the same, then you're not getting much clarity. So generally the flat burrs are supposed to give you decent texture and clarity. But for espresso, this is not, by the way, a grinder that you should use in any way or form for anything other than espresso. This is an espresso grinder. So how does it work on the clarity scale, and how does it work on the texture scale? Lovely texture. I'd say 8 out of 10 because I'm being fussy. 9 would have to be pretty amazing, and 10 would be, you know, you couldn't ever get any better, so you never really go to a 10. So let's say 8 for texture. Clarity, I would say, you know, a lot of people talk about the clarity of this machine. I'd say it's just maybe a 7. Not that there isn't clarity. It's just that there's definitely, I've had more clarity out of other grinders. It's not to say it's bad, but you kind of have to get the sweet spot. You're going to get it ground. You have to get it dialed in just perfectly and everything else. But dialing in just perfectly is possible because it's not stepped. You've got this infinite. You can make tiny little adjustments. That said, one of the downsides of this machine, and even if you make the adjustments, this is one of the little problems that you've got, is the amount of retention. So the retention on this is not great, I have to say. And that leads me to why I'm going to be getting another grinder. So this machine, when you go to clean it, you'll get, I actually haven't weighed it, but you'll get quite a lot. If you blow through with a little rocket blower, you blow through almost like a bellows, and you pump it through, and you see how much grounds are in the chamber that come out. It's quite a lot. So if that's been sitting overnight, in the morning you come down, you want to make yourself a lovely espresso, you've got to clear that out first. And you can only clear that out with the bellows thing, with the little pump, if you take the hopper off, undo the doohickey, the burr, and then stick your blower down it, which I'm not going to do. So you just kind of grind through an extra, I don't know, I set it for 3 grams or so, and then I purged that 3 grams. And that's a shame. That feels to me like that's like murdering the beans. I'm murdering them. These beautiful beans have been grown with loving care by the farmers over in, in Costa Rica or Brazil or wherever I'm getting my coffee from. And I'm just blowing them away because, I've got a grinder that wastes 3 grams of coffee every morning. So that makes me cry. I cry every time I do that, and that's not right. So clearly I will be looking for a very low retention grinder, hint, in the future. But there is one other thing I want to say. So you've got single and double buttons here. One of what I've done is I've set the single button for, I think it's like a half a second or so. And what that does is so I put it on a single in the morning, hit that grind, and then I throw that away, and that's my sort of 3 grams. So it's a really nice little, basically I've set it up as a purge, because who on earth has single espressos? Who in their right mind has a single espresso when you can have a double? So I put the single on the single, purge, half a second, put the double on, bang, bish bosh, there's my espresso in the morning. One of the other things I love about this machine, love about this machine is the simplicity of it. That menu I've just mentioned, I've never read the manual. There probably was a manual, I've never looked at it. I challenge anybody to tell me there's something about this grinder I don't know. Because there's not a lot to find out on the menu. It is so simple. It is so simple, it makes me believe that the people who designed it spent a long time designing it. Because simple doesn't come quickly. Simple isn't a result of, not thinking about it. When you don't think about it very much, you make things very complicated. In order to make things very simple in a way that's very intuitive, that takes a lot of thought. And as far as I'm concerned, they totally nailed it. Now, if you're running a cafe, that's important because it may not be you doing the coffees all the time and be somebody else coming in. And unless you want to train them all the time, and you'll get different levels of skills, and it depends on where you are and the people working for you and whatever else. Maybe you have to hire a sister-in-law or something and she's useless, but you don't have a family argument, so she's working there and she just, you can set it up. And actually you just press these 2 buttons here, you lock it, and that's it. So it's set up. So you set up your grind in the morning, you dial it in, lock it, they can't mess it up. It's simple. It's very, very simple. You push this little button in here, put the portafilter in, grinds, and it's also indestructible. It's got something like I think it's a 500 something watt motor. So this brings me on to the next point. So we talked about simple. Next thing I love about this grinder is that it is a beast. So don't worry about running shot after shot. I've heard different people say you could do 100 shots a day with this grinder. I'm thinking only 100. Running a cafe, I would have no problems putting this in a cafe that was running more than 100. I don't want to say how many more. Someone's going to come back and sue me, but I double that, I would have thought. Something like that, 200. It depends, actually. So it depends upon your sort of statistical curve. If you're doing 200 shots a day and it's all in the, first couple of hours, it's different. And that's how I imagine that's what it's like. But if it was like over a 10-hour period, I think you'd do even more than that, if it was equally distributed. It doesn't get hot. Your grinds don't massively vary from shot to shot. So it's like some of these grinders are super high speed and then, but then it gets hot and then the next one's got to wait a little bit, or they've got fans and they get complicated and the fans need maintenance. This just isn't like that. I don't know what they've done with it. It is still a fast grinder. Not as fast as everyone else tells me, which I don't understand, by the way. So everyone says, and the sort of the reviews that I've seen of it all sort of say, it pulls a shot, double shot in 5 seconds, 18 grams in 5 seconds. It doesn't take me 5 seconds. It takes me a bit longer. It takes me about 7 seconds to do mine. Now, it could be I'm doing longer shots. I think, and I've given some thought about this, I think it's because I'm using performance baskets, like I'm using the VST baskets. They run a little bit faster, so you tend to grind a little bit finer. And because I'm grinding a little bit finer, it takes a little bit longer. That's my theory. Write in and tell me if you've got a better theory. I'd love to hear it. Also, because I'm using those VST baskets to run a little bit faster, I'm grinding a bit finer, as I mentioned, I do get some clumping with this. And I mean, everyone else tells me, oh, you don't get any clumping. I get clumping. I do get clumping. But it doesn't bother me. So what? It's not like massive clumping, not boulders, but I get a little bit of clumping in there. Depends on the coffee, of course, as well. Some coffee you need to grind finer than others. But get a little bit of clumping in there. I do give a little mix up before I tamp it or distribute and tamp it. So that's just something to bear in mind if you're using, I guess, a performance basket, is that you might need to grind finer. And at that stage, you are getting the clumping. The good news is you can grind that fine. You can grind as fine as you like. Now, these burrs that come with it, the burrs, you can change them out for SSP Reds. I've never particularly felt the need to do that, but you can do, which is groovy. But they're quite uniform. So if you take a look at the grinds that are coming out, they're quite uniform in size. What does that mean? So it means that all the coffee's going to get, the grind's going to get extracted around the same rate, all other things being equal, proper distribution, et cetera, et cetera. And that makes it good for espresso. It's supposed to make it good for clarity and good for espresso. So, yeah, and that's kind of the way it's panning out. Like I said, I have had better espressos from other machines, but I have to say, not necessarily at this price point. Remember, let's go back, £599. So what does that put it in the in competition with? Well, let's take that grinder I got beaten up over for my views on a month or so ago, which was the Malkonig X54. You know, I said it's not really for me, and some people agreed, and others, you know, heartily disagreed. You know, and said various things. So, but what I didn't like about that grinder, I said that grinder's not for me, but isn't this the same kind of thing? Not really. What they've done with that grinder is Malkonig, for me, is slightly overcomplicated things a little bit. You know, it's Wi-Fi enabled. You've got buttons you pop and move and switch and turn around. But the killer for me was the hopper had a bespoke proprietary kind of attachment to it. And I couldn't find anywhere where you could get, and it was a tall hopper that wouldn't fit under your cabinet. So if you had a cabinet, it's a good chance it wasn't going to fit. I wouldn't say it won't, but I think a good chance. And it was difficult to get another hopper for it because of this proprietary fitting. Whereas this thing here, it's just a, you know, any old bish bosh puts it on top, no problems. So for me, the simplicity of this, I think the Malkonig was, from what I've heard, and bear in mind, I've never even seen the Malkonig. So I'm talking like, you know, like we're having a cup of coffee and we're in the, you know, in a bar or whatever, having a coffee and I'm chatting about the Malkonig. I've never seen it, never touched it. I mean, if I touched it, I'd love it. I'd say, my God, this is the grinder for me. What was I talking about? But I'm just going off of what I'm looking at. And those are my thoughts, you know, looking at it. Would I buy that off the internet but without seeing one? Actually, here's a good point. What would I do? Got the Malkonig, I think it's around the same sort of price, or this. Bear in mind, this is old. Malkonig is new. It's brand new, it's shiny. You know, this is it's a bit old. It's like 2017 or whatever it is. I don't know. What would I go for? I mean, that's a good question because there's another thing. Would that be really embarrassing if I said I'd go for the Malkonig. I don't think. Here's the thing. There's always that mindset of grass is greener on the other side. Newer is better. I think I'd still go with this machine. Apart from the fact of the hopper, I love the simplicity of it. I think there's something very zen about it's not in the way. I don't have to think about it. I've got enough things to worry about during the day. I'm sure you do too. Do you want to worry about your grinder in the morning? Do you want to think, oh, hold on a second, I need to make a change and I need to go and open the manual? And maybe it's not like that, but it looked a little bit like that to me. Anyway, I'd be very happy with this because I've used it for a long time and it's never once let me down, like never. And I have not treated this particularly well. In the old days, when when I had to clean it, which is another thing actually, another, I think, advantage this has over the X54 is the way you clean it. But when I used to clean it and I didn't think about using a vacuum cleaner, I used to pick it up and hold it upside down and shake it and bang it around. It's just not an easy machine to pick up, I can tell you. And then I realized you could just use a vacuum cleaner. So, you know, and there's a tip for you, by the way, if you haven't worked that one out yet. But here's the other thing about it, is that in order to open this up and clean this, I can clean this in a minute, 1 minute. I pit stop, race me, whatever time, I can do it in a minute. Guarantee you, all I need is a screwdriver, Phillips screwdriver. And I can close that, take it off, assuming that the beans it's empty, right? If you still got beans in there, you've got it'll work out how to get the beans out, right? The last beans, unless you throw them away, which, you know, that's horrible. Don't do that. So the beans are out. You take the hopper off. You take this little, in fact, you know, let's do it. Just take the hopper off. This little collar comes off here. 3 screws, Phillips screws in here. Take it off. That's it. You're ready to clean it. Now, this is the top burr right here. So I'm looking at the top burr. So this comes off. You get a brush, thick, bristly brush, get in all the little crooks and crannies and whatever. Pump the rocket blower through so that it puffs all the things out. Hoover it up, back on, 3 screws back on. Put this, make sure you put that bit sticking up. Make sure that goes always on that side, because that fits there. Then that goes back in. Can't do this the other way around, obviously. Can't do this backwards. And then there you go. That is nothing. That's nothing. I don't need a hex tool. I don't need to find where I put my hex wrench. And if I want to adjust the forks, it's the same screwdriver. So I've got one screwdriver. I've got a little mini screwdriver I have sitting. I hide it under my espresso machine so no one knows it's there. I pull it out and I do that, and it's easy to do. So overall, you know, there's lots of new grinders coming out in the marketplace. Why am I getting rid of it? Well, as I mentioned, I single dose. And this is not a grinder for single dosing. This is not a grinder for single dosing. This is the one thing it doesn't do well, is single dose your shots, because it needs that gravity to push the beans down. Just like the X54, same problem. Needs the gravity, needs weight of the beans to push them down. Otherwise, the beans sort of pop up and everything else, and they don't grind in a uniform way, and you don't get the result that you want. So I'm getting rid of it then. No, I'm not getting rid of it, actually. I'm keeping it. I'm keeping it because I'm greedy and I love it too much. And also, I'm going to... The other grinder I've got is not that big. It's not that big. I'm giving away all these clues. And it's a single dosing grinder, obviously. I'm going to make a little bit of space in the kitchen. I'm actually going to remodel the kitchen so I can fit all my coffee equipment on there. But this isn't a single dosing grinder. So I have a single dosing grinder. I will use this as a sort of a regular, put my beans in as a regular morning espresso coffee thing, and I'll single dose other coffees. So it allows me all the time to try different coffees. So this will be great. My son rushes down. He's not going to want to mess around weighing out beans and things. He comes down. He's late for work as usual, and you know, just wants to put the portafilter in and go. This is perfect for that. It's perfect. He doesn't want to mess around weighing out his beans, putting his beans in, you know, making adjustments. Just push it in, hit the button, go. And so we'll keep it for that. And I've got a single dosing grinder to go next to it, where I can play around with new beans that come in and have the two running at the same time. Yeah, so to wrap it up, I would just say, if you're looking in the market for a grinder, if you're looking at single dosing and you're like me, where you want to weigh out your beans, and you're maybe got different beans that you've maybe got 3 or 4. I've usually got 3 or 4 bags of beans at any one time. So sometimes I think, ooh, I fancy that one. Sometimes, ooh, I think I fancy that one. You know, you've got to have them in the hopper, changing around. It's a pain in the butt, not for you. If, on the other hand, you're a normal person who buys, you know, 1 bag of beans at a time, puts them in, and just wants simplicity, never fail, very high quality espresso, then actually I would say this is really not a bad choice. I don't know if you can get it cheaper now than £599, but even at that price, I think it's worth it. I think you can melt this down and get that money back in scrap metal. This thing weighs, I can't pick it up. It weighs it's a lot of metal. So yeah, I hope that's been useful to you. Let me know your thoughts below. Do you have one? Did I miss something? Did I miss something out? Something you want to add? Let me know. If you wouldn't get this and you get something else, tell me what you'd get instead. Love to hear you and see you next week.